comes to cars, we all want more power, more efficiency, and less cost. But what if I told you that Africa just unveiled a car that never needs fuel, never needs charging, and could disrupt the entire auto industry? And here's the kicker. The world's biggest automakers and energy companies are scrambling to figure out what happens next. In this video, we are diving into Africa's revolutionary self-powered vehicle, a game-changing invention that has left engineers and automakers in shock. And trust me, this is not just another electric car. Stick with me to the end, because this is not just an innovation. It is a revolution that could change transportation forever. What's happening? In an astonishing breakthrough, Maxwell Chikumbutso, an inventor from Zimbabwe, has unveiled a self-powered car, a vehicle that never needs fuel or charging. Unlike electric vehicles that rely on massive lithium-ion batteries or hydrogen fuel cells, Chikumbutso's car generates its own power while in motion. This means no trips to the gas station, no dependence on charging infrastructure, and no need for costly battery replacements. The implications of this innovation are monumental. If scalable, this technology could wipe out entire industries built around fueling and charging vehicles. Gas stations, charging stations, and even electric power grids could become obsolete for transportation. Skeptics argue that such an idea defies the laws of physics. Yet demonstrations have shown that the vehicle moves without an external power source. While experts are still debating how the system works, the car's ability to operate independently of traditional energy sources has already shaken the global auto industry. But what makes this car truly revolutionary is the breakthrough energy technology that powers it, the technology that makes it work. According to Chikumbutso, his microsonic energy device converts radio waves into direct usable energy, providing power not only for the motor, but also for other electronic components within the car. This challenges conventional physics, where energy harvesting from radio waves has typically been dismissed as too weak to power something as energy-intensive as a vehicle. Despite skepticism from the scientific community, live demonstrations have stunned engineers. The vehicle has been tested in front of experts who were unable to explain how it continued running without a battery or visible fuel source. Some have suggested that Chikumbutso's technology amplifies ambient radio frequencies, increasing their energy output beyond what was previously considered possible. While some question the long-term scalability of this technology, one thing is certain: if proven effective, it could revolutionize not only the automotive industry, but the entire energy sector. However, this is not just about cars. This innovation has the potential to transform how we use energy on a global scale. A power source for everything, not just cars. The implications of self-sustaining energy technology go far beyond transportation. If microsonic energy can be scaled, it could provide a limitless, decentralized energy source for homes, businesses, and even entire cities. Imagine never having to pay for electricity again. Homes powered by this technology would no longer require a connection to centralized grids, giving homeowners complete control over their own energy needs. Businesses could cut operating costs significantly, reducing their dependence on power companies. Rural and off-grid communities, especially in developing nations, could finally have reliable electricity without the need for expensive infrastructure investments. Currently, electricity access remains a major global issue. More than 770 million people worldwide lack reliable electricity, according to the International Energy Agency. Many of these individuals live in regions where power grids are either non-existent or highly unstable. If self-powered energy technology becomes widely available, it could bridge the energy gap, providing sustainable electricity to the world's most underserved populations. The financial benefits are just as significant. Energy bills, which represent a major monthly expense for millions, could become a thing of the past. Countries that rely on expensive fuel imports to generate electricity could free themselves from foreign energy dependence. But every disruptive technology faces resistance. Who stands to lose the most if this becomes reality? The industries that want this technology gone. Not everyone is celebrating the emergence of self-powered vehicles and independent energy generation. If this innovation proves viable, some of the world's most powerful industries could face financial catastrophe. The disruption would not be limited to one sector. It could destabilize entire economies, collapse trillion-dollar markets, and force governments to rethink their energy policies. For decades, the oil and gas industry has dominated the global economy, supplying fuel for vehicles, power plants, and factories. These industries generate trillions of dollars in revenue every year, employing millions of workers worldwide. If self-powered technology eliminates the need for fuel, the impact would be devastating. Nations that depend on oil exports, such as Saudi Arabia, Russia, and the United States, could face economic collapse as demand for fossil fuels plummets. Refineries, drilling operations, and fuel distribution networks could become obsolete, leading to massive job losses and a dramatic shift in the global economy. The electric vehicle industry also faces an existential threat. For years, Tesla, General Motors, and other automakers have invested billions of dollars into lithium-ion battery technology, expecting electric cars to replace gasoline-powered vehicles. But if self-powered cars eliminate the need for batteries or charging stations, these companies could suffer massive financial losses. Charging station networks, which are rapidly expanding across major cities, could become completely irrelevant. The battery supply chain, which involves mining lithium, cobalt, and nickel, would collapse overnight. Beyond oil and electric vehicles, the entire global energy sector is at risk. Power companies rely on selling electricity to homes and businesses. But if people generate their own power indefinitely, utility companies could lose their customer base. Governments, too, have a vested interest in controlling energy markets. Many nations collect billions in energy taxes each year. If power suddenly becomes free and widely available, government revenue streams could shrink, forcing officials to rethink their economic strategies. Some believe that powerful corporations are already working behind the scenes to suppress or discredit this breakthrough. Throughout history, industries have fought against disruptive technology that threatens their dominance. Oil companies lobbied against electric cars for decades before they became mainstream. Renewable energy faced years of political and corporate resistance before gaining acceptance. The question now is whether self-powered technology will be blocked before it can even reach mass adoption. If this innovation is real and viable, the pushback from corporate interests will be enormous. Legal battles, patent restrictions, and negative media coverage could all be used to slow down or prevent its implementation. The companies that stand to lose billions will not let this technology disrupt their industries without a fight. But despite these challenges, one man refused to back down, and his story is nothing short of extraordinary. From high school dropout to groundbreaking inventor, Maxwell Chikumbutso's story is not one of privilege or access to elite institutions, but one of perseverance, self-learning, and defying expectations. Unlike the engineers at Tesla or major automotive companies, he never had formal training in engineering. Born and raised in Zimbabwe, he grew up in an environment with limited resources, but possessed an insatiable curiosity for how things worked. Instead of waiting for an opportunity, he created one. His journey into invention began at an early age when he started dismantling radios and old electronic devices to understand their mechanics. Without professional guidance or access to textbooks, he relied entirely on trial and error. While most children his age were focusing on schoolwork, he was teaching himself about circuits, electrical currents, and transmission frequencies. Despite dropping out of high school due to financial struggles, Chikumbutso never stopped learning. Instead, he doubled down on his experiments, determined to prove that formal education was not the only path to groundbreaking discoveries. But Chikumbutso's self-powered vehicle was not his first breakthrough. In fact, his past work proved that he had been ahead of his time for years. And this is not his first major invention. His past work proves he was ahead of his time. His other inventions that shocked the world. Before unveiling his self-powered vehicle, Chikumbutso had already developed several revolutionary technologies that caught the attention of both admirers and skeptics. His inventions were not theoretical ideas. They were functional prototypes that could be demonstrated and tested. While the world was focused on refining battery-powered solutions, he was working on something completely different: energy independence. One of his earliest inventions was a self-powered television that did not require an external power source. Unlike traditional televisions that rely on electricity from the grid, this device generates its own energy, making it particularly useful for areas with limited access to power. If widely adopted, such technology could eliminate the need for electrical wiring in homes, especially in developing regions where electricity is scarce. Chikumbutso also invented a fuel-free generator that could produce electricity without gasoline. diesel, or any other combustible fuel. Instead, it harnessed radio frequency energy from the environment and converted it into usable power. If scaled up, this invention could provide a limitless and cost-free energy source for millions of people, reducing dependence on fossil fuels and government-controlled power grids. Perhaps one of his most ambitious projects before the self-powered car was a hybrid-powered helicopter. While the aviation industry was focused on making fuel more efficient, Chikumbutso developed a helicopter that used a combination of self-sustaining energy sources, significantly reducing its reliance on traditional fuel. This technology had the potential to reshape not only aviation, but also military and emergency transport industries, offering a reliable and sustainable alternative. Everything changed, however, when he revealed his most ambitious project yet, the self-powered car. But when he publicly revealed the self-powered car, everything changed. The demonstration that left experts speechless. The world got its first real look at Chikumbutso's self-powered car during a live demonstration in Zimbabwe's capital. This was not an animated concept video or a private test behind closed doors. It was a public unveiling attended by scientists, engineers, investors, and journalists. Unlike traditional electric vehicles, which rely on charging stations or large battery packs, Chikumbutso's car powered itself independently, continuously generating energy as it moved. Skepticism was high going into the demonstration. Many engineers doubted that a self-sustaining vehicle was even possible. Some assumed that hidden batteries or fuel reserves must be powering the car. However, independent tests were conducted to verify its authenticity. Investigators thoroughly examined the vehicle, checking for secret fuel compartments, power inputs, or hidden energy storage units. They found nothing. There was no gasoline tank, no external charging port, and no lithium-ion battery pack. When the car started moving effortlessly, the crowd watched in disbelief. Engineers and scientists, who had spent years perfecting traditional energy-dependent technologies, were left searching for explanations. If this invention was real, it had the potential to disrupt the entire transportation and energy industries. A vehicle that never required refueling or charging could render gas stations, oil refineries, and even electric vehicle charging networks obsolete. News of the demonstration quickly spread. Videos of the event circulated online, sparking heated debates among experts and skeptics. Some called it one of the most significant breakthroughs in modern history, while others questioned whether the technology could be mass-produced or replicated on a larger scale. However, the excitement did not last long. As with many disruptive inventions, powerful interests quickly took notice. The idea of free, self-sustaining energy was not just revolutionary. It was threatening to multi-trillion-dollar industries, and those industries were not going to sit back and watch their dominance be challenged. However, the excitement quickly turned to controversy. Many wanted this invention buried. The threats, assassination attempts, and roadblocks. With every great innovation comes resistance, and Chikumbutso's self-powered car was no exception. As news of his demonstration spread, so did opposition from powerful entities that saw his technology as a direct threat to their profits and control over global energy markets. Shortly after unveiling the vehicle, Chikumbutso began receiving threats. Reports emerged that individuals connected to major energy corporations were actively working to discredit his work. Some attempted to pressure him into selling his technology, while others warned him to stop pursuing the project altogether. When persuasion did not work, intimidation followed. One of the most chilling incidents was the alleged poisoning of his business partner. This mysterious and sudden death raised serious concerns. Was this just a coincidence, or was someone trying to silence those involved in the project? Chikumbutso himself claimed to have survived an assassination attempt, further fueling speculation that his work had made him a target. Beyond physical threats, institutional roadblocks also began to appear. When Chikumbutso attempted to patent his self-powered technology, he faced repeated rejections. Authorities and regulatory agencies claimed that his invention violated established laws of physics and refused to grant him legal recognition. Instead of investigating the technology further, many scientific institutions dismissed it outright without any serious attempt at verification. This pattern of suppression is not new. Throughout history, inventors who introduced disruptive technologies have faced significant pushback. Nikola Tesla's work on wireless electricity was systematically dismantled, while Stanley Meyer's water-powered car was allegedly buried by corporate interests. Chikumbutsu appeared to be facing a similar fate. Despite these challenges, he remained determined. Rather than abandon his work, he chose to keep certain elements of his technology a secret, ensuring that even if patents were denied, his discoveries would not be erased. His fight was no longer just about invention. It was about proving that free, limitless energy was possible, and that the world did not have to be dependent on outdated, profit-driven energy systems. But if this invention works, it could completely change the global energy industry. The end of gas stations and charging networks. For more than a century, gas stations have been a cornerstone of global transportation. Whether in bustling cities or remote towns, fueling stations are essential for keeping vehicles on the road. But if self-powered cars become mainstream, these stations could become relics of the past within a few decades. The rise of electric vehicles has already begun shifting the energy landscape. Companies like Tesla, General Motors, and Volkswagen have invested billions in building extensive charging networks. These networks were expected to be the backbone of the automotive future. However, if cars no longer require charging, these massive investments could become worthless overnight. Oil-producing countries face an even bigger crisis. Nations like Saudi Arabia, Russia, and Venezuela rely heavily on fuel exports to sustain their economies. A sudden drop in oil demand could destabilize entire governments, leading to economic downturns, job losses, and reduced global influence. Even countries that depend on refining and fuel distribution, such as the United States and Canada, could suffer significant financial losses. While gas stations and charging networks may disappear, they will not be the only casualties. The energy shift extends far beyond fossil fuels, bringing an even bigger industry to the brink of collapse. And it is not just oil companies. The entire lithium battery industry is at risk. The lithium crisis. Over the past decade, trillions of dollars have been invested in lithium-ion batteries, which currently power the majority of electric vehicles. Manufacturers, governments, and tech companies have all poured resources into mining, refining, and producing lithium-based batteries for cars, homes, and portable devices. However, if self-powered cars eliminate the need for batteries, this multi-trillion-dollar industry could collapse almost overnight. Battery manufacturers such as Panasonic, LG, and CATL could see their businesses shrink drastically. Governments that have invested in battery production plants and mining operations could be left with stranded assets. Countries that control lithium supply chains, particularly China, Australia, and Chile, could also experience major setbacks. China, which dominates 75% of global lithium-ion battery production, has built its economic strategy around leading the next-generation vehicle market. If battery technology suddenly becomes obsolete, China could lose its global manufacturing advantage in the automotive industry. Mining operations also present a major concern. Lithium, cobalt, and nickel, key materials used in electric vehicle batteries, are extracted from the earth through environmentally damaging processes. These operations have devastating effects on local ecosystems and often involve controversial labor practices, including reports of child labor in cobalt mines. If these resources are no longer needed, entire regions dependent on mining could face economic devastation. While some industries stand to lose everything, others could rise to power in this new energy era. The transition to self-generating power opens the door to unprecedented opportunities. But while some industries face destruction, others could gain power from this shift. Who benefits from an energy revolution? A world no longer dependent on oil, batteries, and centralized electricity may seem like a financial disaster for some, but for others it presents a golden opportunity. If self-powered technology proves scalable, entire populations could benefit from a decentralized energy revolution. For rural and off-grid communities, this breakthrough could be life-changing. Today, more than 1 billion people live without reliable electricity, particularly in parts of Africa, South Asia, and Latin America. If vehicles and homes can generate their own power, people in these regions would no longer have to rely on government-controlled grids or expensive energy imports. Remote villages could become completely self-sufficient, using localized power sources instead of waiting for infrastructure to be built. The financial sector could also see massive investment shifts. Companies that focus on alternative energy production, microgrid technology, and wireless energy transmission could become the new market leaders. Investors who recognize the potential of decentralized energy could see exponential returns, similar to those who invested early in solar, wind, and lithium battery technology. Consumers would also benefit enormously. Electricity bills could disappear as energy becomes freely available in the air around us. This could lead to reduced costs for manufacturing, agriculture, and transportation, making everyday goods cheaper and improving economic conditions worldwide. However, not everyone is excited about this transition. Governments and corporations that depend on controlling energy markets may not allow this shift to happen easily. But will governments allow this transition? Or will they try to block it? Governments and corporations fighting to control energy. Energy has always been one of the most powerful tools of control. Nations rely on fuel taxes, electricity tariffs, and energy regulations to generate revenue and maintain influence over their economies. If self-powered vehicles eliminate the need for traditional energy sources, governments could lose billions in tax revenue each year. Some world leaders may see this as a threat to national security. If every home, business, and vehicle can generate its own power, centralized energy grids could become less relevant, reducing government oversight over power distribution. This raises concerns about how governments will respond to the growing push for decentralized energy. Certain countries have already restricted or banned alternative energy innovations to protect their existing energy sectors. For example, some nations have imposed high tariffs on solar panels to slow down the adoption of renewable energy. If self-powered vehicles begin to gain traction, governments may attempt to impose regulations, taxes, or outright bans to protect their traditional energy markets. At the heart of this battle lies a critical question. Who controls the future of energy? If energy becomes truly free and accessible, power could shift away from governments and multinational corporations, putting it back into the hands of individuals. But history has shown that major industries rarely allow disruptive technology to go unchallenged. But while some nations resist innovation, others are embracing the change and taking the lead in the global energy revolution. China's race for alternative energy dominance. One of China's most ambitious projects is its wireless power transmission technology, which aims to eliminate the need for charging stations altogether. This system, which uses microwave and radio wave transmission, could allow vehicles to charge on the move, removing range anxiety and rendering stationary chargers obsolete. While this technology is still in its early stages, Chinese researchers have already conducted successful experiments transmitting energy wirelessly over long distances. Beyond wireless energy, China is investing heavily in nuclear fusion, the holy grail of clean, limitless power. Unlike traditional nuclear fission, which produces radioactive waste, fusion mimics the sun's energy generation process, promising an endless, emission-free power source. China's experimental advanced superconducting tokamak reactor has set world records for sustained plasma temperatures, bringing the country closer to commercializing fusion energy. If China successfully integrates self-powered vehicle technology into its energy strategy, it could leave the United States behind in the race for next-generation transportation. With control over rare earth materials, battery production, and global supply chains, China is positioning itself to dominate the future of mobility and energy. But China is not the only nation making bold moves. Europe is also accelerating its transition away from US-controlled energy sources. Europe's shift away from US energy dependence. The European Union has been one of the most aggressive forces in the global shift away from fossil fuels. While the United States remains deeply reliant on oil and natural gas, European nations are focusing on hydrogen fuel cells, solar power, and other self-sustaining technologies. The goal is clear: reduce dependence on American energy exports and establish Europe as a leader in clean energy innovation. One of Europe's most promising advancements is hydrogen-powered vehicles, which produce zero emissions and can be refueled in minutes. Countries like Germany, France, and the Netherlands have already begun rolling out hydrogen refueling infrastructure. And European automakers such as BMW and Toyota are investing heavily in hydrogen fuel cell technology. Unlike traditional electric vehicles, which depend on lithium batteries, hydrogen-powered cars do not require charging stations, eliminating a major obstacle in EV adoption. In addition to hydrogen, Europe has also made significant progress in solar energy expansion. Nations like Spain and Italy, which receive year-round sunlight, are shifting towards solar-powered charging networks that could power vehicles without relying on the grid. This move could decentralize energy production, allowing individuals and businesses to generate their own power without depending on government-run energy providers. With these advancements, Europe is lessening its reliance on the United States and opening the door for new energy partnerships with emerging markets. The shift could redirect global trade alliances, making European nations more aligned with China and other renewable energy pioneers rather than US-based fossil fuel companies. Meanwhile, in Africa, Maxwell Chikumbutso's groundbreaking invention is already redefining the future of energy independence. Africa's energy leap could change the world. Africa has long been seen as a continent dependent on Western technology and resources, but that narrative is rapidly changing. With inventions like Maxwell Chikumbutso's self-powered vehicle, Africa has the opportunity to skip the fossil fuel era entirely and jump straight into the age of sustainable energy. Unlike Western nations, which are deeply entrenched in oil, gas, and lithium mining, African countries have the chance to build their energy infrastructure from the ground up using decentralized, renewable technologies. With the rise of self-sustaining vehicles and wireless power transmission, Africa could become a global hub for next-generation energy solutions. One of the biggest advantages of this shift is the potential for mass electrification in rural communities. Currently, millions of people in Africa lack access to reliable electricity, limiting economic growth and technological advancement. But with self-powered generators, homes, and vehicles, the need for costly energy infrastructure could be eliminated entirely. Instead of waiting for governments to invest in power grids, individuals could generate their own electricity, leading to greater economic independence. Additionally, Africa's abundant natural resources, such as solar energy, wind power, and geothermal reserves, make it an ideal location for renewable energy expansion. Countries like Kenya, South Africa, and Ghana are already investing in large-scale renewable projects, setting the stage for Africa to become a major player in the global energy market. If self-powered technology is mass-produced, it could position African nations as leaders in energy innovation, rather than mere consumers of foreign technology. Instead of importing fossil fuels, Africa could export revolutionary energy solutions to the world. But what do you think about Maxwell Chikumbutso's invention and the global energy shift? Will self-powered technology redefine the future, or will powerful industries prevent it from reaching the mainstream? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.